Reports suggest that the sales of the iPhone 14 Plus are low. In fact, many other reports that I've read have suggested that Apple has even cut down the production of the iPhone 14 Plus by about 80%. And it's hardly been over 2 weeks, I guess, that this phone has been on sale. But we are seeing this kind of animosity against the iPhone 14 Plus, which I don't understand, because for me personally, I think this is the best iPhone that you can buy right now in 2022, and I'm talking about the whole iPhone 14 series. This is the best iPhone 14 model that you can buy in the year 2022. So that's what I'm here to talk about. This is my review of the iPhone 14 Plus. Hello everyone, I'm Aniya for Fiber, and before we go ahead, consider hitting that red subscribe button, turn on the bell for all the latest updates, and please drop a comment below for the sake of the YouTube algorithm. With that said, let's get started. Now, before I start talking about the iPhone 14 Plus and give you my reason why this phone is worth the purchase, let's briefly talk about the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Plus. Now, the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro, and of course the iPhone 14 Pro Max, are undoubtedly great smartphones, but I've got a few gripes with them. For the iPhone 14, it is an amazing smartphone, but as a successor to the already hot-selling iPhone 13, not to forget the 13 has been selling for around 60,000 rupees these days in various sales. I don't think there's much of a difference between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 14. In fact, if you're looking to purchase a vanilla iPhone, I think between the two phones, you should definitely get the iPhone 13. You're not losing much. And of course, you're saving a lot of cash. As for the iPhone 14 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro Max, well, if I were living in the USA, I would have said that the iPhone 14 Plus is $899. So I would rather invest $100 more, which is roughly 80 to 100 rupees, and get the iPhone 14 Pro. So what if the screen is smaller on the iPhone 14 Pro in comparison to the iPhone 14 Plus? I mean, for the features, for $100 more, I think 14 Pro gets more features than the 14 Plus, which are absolutely worth it. Heck, if I need a bigger screen itself, I would try and extend my budget by about $200, which is roughly 16,500 rupees, and get the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and the difference in price between the 14 Plus and the 14 Pro Max will still be justified. But we live in India, and the iPhone 14 Pro starts in our country at around 1,30,000 rupees compared to $999 in the USA, which is roughly 83,000 rupees. And even if we include the sales tax while purchasing the phone from the USA, the difference will still be around 40,000 rupees between the 14 Plus and the 14 Pro, and around 50,000 rupees between the 14 Plus and the 14 Pro Max. The moral of the story is that for about 90,000 rupees, if you decide to go for the iPhone 14 Plus, you are getting a big iPhone experience without spending insane amounts of cash on the Pro Max model. But what does the iPhone 14 Plus bring on a whole to the table? Let me elaborate. Now, for the past 2 years, I've always wanted to get myself a Pro Max iPhone, but I've not been able to do that because of the budget. And also, the primary reason that I wanted a Pro Max iPhone was the big battery life and the big screen. And yeah, as I said, my budget was not that much that I could afford a big screen iPhone. But now with the 14 Plus, I think both my reasons are sorted, and this phone doesn't even cost a bomb. So starting with the screen, you get the same OLED display from the iPhone 13 series, but now larger at 6.7 inch on the iPhone 14 Plus. So superb color reproduction, superb peak brightness of up to 1200 nits, HDR10 support, along with a large screen real estate. Pair these with one of the loudest and best sounding stereo speakers on any smartphone. I think the iPhone 14 Plus offers a large and immersive multimedia experience that you can get on any smartphone. Now, of course, it is still a 60 Hz panel, which I think at this price, Apple should have at least gone for a 90 Hz panel, but here we are. Nonetheless, thanks to the software optimization and the animations in iOS, the iPhone 14 Plus with its 60 Hz display still feels smooth in day-to-day operation, and I'm saying that even by 2022 standards. I also don't mind the notch, I think I'm okay with it by now. In fact, the pill cutout, or say the dynamic island on the iPhone 14 Pro, Pro is something I think is more irritating and obtrusive in my opinion. Now in terms of performance, you get the tried and tested A15 Bionic chipset, and by current standards the chip is very fast. And I'm saying fast in comparison to the A16 as well, and way fast than the competition. Now in regular day-to-day use, I never felt that I had speed issues with the 14 Plus or the phone was lagging or anything like that, be it any demanding game, opening multiple tabs in the browser, or even RAM management, which by the way you get 6 GB RAM on the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus versus 4 GB on the iPhone 13. Trust me, the performance is something that is not going to disappoint you. I mean, even under heavy load, the iPhone 14 Plus barely gets warm, but when it comes to sustained performance, the phone delivers through and through. Now, battery life is also another key area where the iPhone 14 Plus shines. Now, with iOS 16, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is a phone that also has the similar kind of battery capacity as the iPhone 14 Plus, that phone hasn't delivered when it comes to the battery life, but the iPhone 14 Plus has been a champ. With medium to heavy usage, including watching videos, using the hotspot, video calling, gaming, etc., on numerous occasions, I've even hit 2 days on a single charge with about 10 to 11 hours of screen on time, and this is absolutely fantastic. Now, talking about the camera, you get a new 12 megapixel rear camera, basically the one from the iPhone 13 Pro series. This is coupled with a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, while the front is graced by a new 12 megapixel autofocus camera. Specs aside, the iPhone 14 Plus has a reliable camera system. Now, people who like optical zoom in their photos are going to miss the telephoto lens, which you don't get here. But for what's on offer, the primary camera does a fabulous job of capturing the colors, textures, human subjects, skin tones, nature, and all that jazz. HDR shots could use some improvement sometimes, but that's an iPhone problem on a whole that Apple needs to fix. But generally, shots came out clean, crisp, and detailed with superb dynamic range. However, the night shots taken from the ultra wide angle lens did have some noticeable noise, but again, if you use the primary camera to click photos in a dim lit environment, especially if there's a slight window of having any sort of artificial light around, expect good results. Selfies also look improved this year around, be it the general selfies or the portrait selfies. I think the 14 Plus deals much better with skin texture, something that I felt the 13 series over sharpened in many cases. But overall, selfies turned out nice from the iPhone 14 Plus. Also, ever so slightly, I think the wide selfies capture better white balance in photos in comparison to the normal selfies. Finally, in terms of video recording, you can record up to 4K 60 FPS from all the lenses front and rear. This is the 4K 60 FPS sample, and like it is every year, even this time the iPhones are the champ when it comes to the video recording done from a smartphone, and the iPhone 14 Plus is no different. Otherwise, I feel the iPhone 14 Plus is a really great smartphone. I think it's reliable, it has superb cameras, the display is amazing. I have not had any connectivity issues also, calls have been rock solid, 5G is also about to come in December. Now, I do feel that Apple could have and should have at least put a 90 Hz screen on the iPhone 14 Plus. I think that would have made this phone a killer deal. But okay, we can live with the iPhone 14 Plus with a 60 Hz display. I think, what can we do now? But for what it's worth, I think the iPhone 14 Plus is a good smartphone, and Fiber rates the iPhone 14 Plus 8.5 on 10. So that's all for my review of the iPhone 14 Plus. Be sure to drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts about the iPhone 14 Plus. As always, for all the latest in tech, stay tuned to Fiber. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you for watching.